This is the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Kendall of the notaballerina.com travel blog. Every episode, I'll share travel tales from several fellow travel lovers, and together we hope to entertain and inspire you, remind you of some of your own great travel experiences, and encourage you to hit the road again soon. Monisha, thank you so much for joining us. We've been very excited. I was very happy to be able to speak to you again, and especially happy to talk about this awesome book because we had a lot of fun reading it.
Yeah. So, good. Thank you.
Well, yeah, it gave me a lot of wanderlust. I've got a whole lot of new places I need to see in this special way, I think. So,
well, that's my job done then.
Yep. Tick done. Oh dear. So tonight, Monisha, well, this afternoon for you, we've got a few questions we want to ask. I think the audience will chime in with questions too. And really, we just want to celebrate the whole idea of traveling on sleeper trains. Something I've done quite a few times, but not recently. So I've really got lots of ideas now. So, yeah. So we always start just by deciding whether we liked it or not. It's a bit awkward when the author's here. Like
the author's here. It's fine. It's public property now, so I can't get upset by anything.
Well, okay. Well, I'll start with Justin. Tell us your thoughts.
Oh, I get to go first. No, I as usual, I've read all 3 books. I'm hoping there's a 4th one I don't know about. I've read them all, and this one. I guess the thing I really like about travel books is that you can't really spoil them because it's not.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not like there's a story here. So if anyone hasn't read it, then it's.
Yeah.
And the thing I really liked was how you basically every kind of chapter there was a bit of a story in there, and some of those stories went across a few things like the earthquake that happened, for example, and that. Kind of, and then there was some ongoing world events that were going on, and they're just kind of side stories. But it was just, it basically was. If it wasn't your traveling companion that was entertaining, you found someone else on the train to be equally entertaining. I just really enjoyed all of the little interactions and stuff from your. I was saying earlier to Amanda from Denny and Ditta, who seem to like drinking late at night on trains. Those stories to. Even just things like every time you get on the train, if you weren't sure there was a dining car, that was because to me it's pretty critical. You want a dining car. I just found it all very relatable to me anyway. So and enjoyed.
So you liked it,
yeah. Not only that, like I knew like the last or second last chapter was in South America, which is a place I've been to a fair bit and done a few things there. So yeah, really look forward to that one. And then like there's places I've never been, and then. Even things like down to, it's quite funny, the restaurant you went to in Bucharest, I think is the one where all the foreigners get told to go to for your local Romanian cuisine.
Yeah.
And there's just lots of stuff like that in the book that I really enjoyed. And I don't know if I've got anything else I need to say. It's just
I'm glad you liked it.
Thoroughly
because we didn't have this discussion first, but I was fairly confident that you would have enjoyed it. It goes without saying, I think I loved it. I have loved all of your books, Monisha. I'm not just saying that because you're here. It's because I do love train travel.
We did a podcast for a second. Was it Around the World?
We were Around the World in 80
We liked that one, and that was on record before.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. Yes, we love that, and that we recorded that years ago, and it's true. So, yes. But yeah, it also because, of course, train travel is very thoughtful, like we discussed in our interview a few weeks back. But also, like Justin, I think more than the train travel, I loved the people along the way. Maybe you can start us off, Monisha. Can you give us maybe one or two of your favorite people that are mentioned in the book, whether they are strangers or friends? A couple of highlighted people.
Well, actually, funnily enough, the two that you mentioned, Denny and Ditta, I saw Ditta this morning on the school run, and I find it really difficult to view her in a different way now than anything other than this character in the book. Because even my editor, when she first wrote back, when she did the first draft of the book, one of her top comments was, "Oh my God," she's like, "I love Ditta." She said, "What an absolute hoot." And it completely summed up how that journey was, because that was one of the most fun chapters that I wrote, I think. Not just the actual travels, but sitting down and kind of bringing her to life again. And I mean, she really is like that. She's so fun and so just involved, I think, with everything that we did. And it's tricky when you take people on travels because you only really get to know someone's nature when you're traveling. You get to see their real kind of side, and when they're tired or they're hungry or they're, just not really enjoying where they are, maybe you see it very quickly. It's quite hard to hide. And given that she hadn't been away for, I think it was 9 years without her kids, she really kind of just took it in her stride. She hadn't been on sleeper trains before. She hadn't been to Vienna before. She didn't really know what we were doing. I'd organized everything. She just came along. And they're the best people to have, who are just like, I'll just go wherever you tell me to go. I'll eat where you tell me to eat. I will take off my clothes and go into a Finnish sauna because I have to. I mean, she was just so kind of game for everything. And I guess Denny was very similar as well. I've known him for years, and we've traveled with his wife and my husband to India before, but not just the two of us. And he was so much fun to be with. Again, for the same reasons, just happy to go with whatever you suggest without any complaint, just happy to sit and chat to anybody else. Doesn't need me to be making inroads in conversation with people, just found people himself, got involved, and just really kind of took to train travel, which is not easy for everyone. It doesn't work for everybody. And yet both of them, who were kind of new to this, just fully embraced it. So they made my job really easy because they were, I mean, I didn't ham them up. I didn't kind of exaggerate them in any way. I actually had a message from a friend who knows Denny, who just wrote to me saying, "You absolutely nailed Denny with his late night drinking, kind of just casual wandering about and seeing what happens." So it's nice when you hear from people like that who do know them and say, that I can
Got
absolutely
it
see
right.
on page. But there were so
Sure.
many other people who were just extraordinary characters in their own way. I think one of them who still sticks out for me is the young high school student who I saw on the Finland train, who had come as a refugee from Myanmar. Obviously very different from Denny and Ditta, but no less incredible in terms of just adapting to where he was. He'd only really been in the country for a few months, and he'd come from Myanmar, which he'd never left before in his life, to somewhere like Finland, which
You can't get much more different.
no, and I mean, even being quite a sort of adventurous traveler, I found Finland quite difficult to adapt to because of the weather. It really is so extreme, being in, minus 20 degrees and not knowing kind of mentally how to adapt to that. And he just took it in his stride. He was really young. He was barely 18 and he was there without his family. The only person that he knew was another student who he'd been friends with in Myanmar, who was in Tampere in Finland. And just how quickly he had got used to speaking Finnish, how he was doing his schooling in Finnish, not just doing schooling in another country, but in the middle of a coup, having to leave the country, and then just chatting to strangers on a train, was really eye opening for me. And his attitude, I think his attitude to where he was, what he was doing. He wasn't crying about things. He was just grateful for the fact that he was able to be away and pursuing his studies still. And he had such a measured look at his situation. I think that's what I found really quite incredible. And it made me kind of question whether I would have been that way aged 18. And I don't think I would. So, I mean, these kind of encounters, they do throw up all sorts of feelings. A lot of the time wondering whether I would, behave in the same way if I was in that situation. So yeah, there was a whole range of people. Also, I think that the mum and son who Denny was chatting to on the train from Berlin to Stockholm, they were so funny, and I wish I'd actually dedicated a bit more time to them because they were literally in an adjoining compartment from us, and we only realized at about midnight that you could actually open up the door and turn it into a full kind of
Right, the
joint
inside doors,
compartment.
right. Yeah.
So while we've been standing in the corridor chatting, and basically making a complete nuisance of ourselves with people trying to go back and forth, Denny suddenly realized that you could actually kind of pause. So then he opened up things like, great, now I can actually sit in my bed and chat to you guys. And they were going for a long time after I went to sleep. I didn't write any of that in because they were awake till probably about 2:30, screaming with laughter, but I'd got earplugs in, so I just went to sleep and left them to it. But it was, their relationship was really sweet. She was adamant that she just wanted to spend time with him before he went to university. He was less keen, but she said, I'm not flying home. I want you to be in this compartment with me. And they were surrounded by suitcases. They could barely move. But she just said, I want to sit and chat to you. And I realized then that, because she said, I want to have this serious conversation with him about university and what he's going to be studying. And I realized that the reason she was doing that was because he couldn't escape her. If she wanted to interrogate him on something, he could not physically leave the conversation and go away because he was in this.
Nowhere else to go.
And you can wander down the corridor or disappear on the platform at Hamburg for half an hour, but she's still there when you come back, and she's there till morning. And she'd fully worked that out, that she had him cornered and that he couldn't escape these questions. And I love that. I thought it was really sweet.
I took notes. I've got a 15-year-old son, and I'm thinking, this time is getting near. So I thought that's what we're going to do next. We'll have some long night train journeys, and we'll have all the right conversations.
Exactly. Heart to hearts.
Yeah. Amazing. Justin, I'll let you ask your question about people.
Oh, yeah. So I've had a fair few interesting conversations on trains. They always happen. Like I got drunk with some guy from Hungary on the train from, I think I was going to Budapest or from Budapest. I can't remember. He made some wine and gave me, but he initiated the conversation, same as on other trains in places like Ethiopia and Sri Lanka and Europe.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I've done lots of day trains, and if people initiate the conversation with me, I'm fine. But I absolutely cannot, for some reason, look at someone and go, hey, they might want to have a chat.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing that fascinates me, maybe because I'm quite a bit introverted, and like I do have times where I like to have my own personal space. But I think a lot of people on trains like that, if you're going to do that, you're going to put like some headphones on or something, and then you kind of make that, hey, I'm wanting to shut myself out from the world, and I'm not interested in chit chat. But I don't know. I see some interesting people, and you think, I really want to know their story, but I've just got no idea how you go. I don't know. I just have no idea how to start those conversations. Maybe, yeah. So I didn't know if you had any tips or anything you do in that regard, because you're obviously
I'm very curious
good
to
at
know.
it. Wow.
Yeah, it's tricky sometimes. It is, because you often see someone and they just have a look about them that they've got stories. They look fun, or they look like they've done stuff. And you think, I want to know. I really want to find it. In fact, I did this recently in Norway when I was with my kids and my husband, and he took them off to bed because it was just getting really late and they were exhausted. And there was a chap in the dining car who was he had a kind of fishing hat on with paint on it, and he'd got some really amazing tattoos that the kids were looking at with tigers and stuff. And he was wearing a vest, and it was like, I know it was summer, but it's still not hot on board the train. And he was just having a tea. Actually, I expected him to kind of go up to the bar and get a couple of beers like everybody else, but he was having a green tea. And I thought, this is quite kind of incongruous to how he looks. And maybe it's just my own kind of, preconception about someone. But I ended up just sitting down at the same table. I said, do you mind if I sit down? He's like, no, go ahead. It's fine. And everybody in Scandinavia speaks English, so it's fine to get chatting. But I was sort of looking at him thinking, I know you've got something fun in you. But I just finally said, I said, my daughter's quite curious about your tiger tattoo. And he said, he said, I got this in a kind of moment of madness when I was in Kiev, back at, and once we kind of got that inroad, then we ended up chatting for about an hour. But a lot of the time I will ask people, if I know that they're local to the area or they're local to that country, I'll just ask them about something that's outside. Yeah. Or generally a question. It's always a question about, for example, do you know what we're going through right now? Do you know what the next station is? Even if I already know what that's going to be, I'll just nudge with something like that. Do you know how long it's going to
Yeah.
be to
Ask an
wherever?
innocuous sounding
Yeah, and
question from a foreigner to open the.
basically, yeah, and more often than not, people do. I find that they want to be helpful
Hmm.
and they do want to engage. But you will also, like you were saying, pick up on the cues if they don't want to
Yeah.
pursue conversation. You can tell because they'll just stop and go back to doing whatever it was they were doing, or they'll look away and you think, maybe you're not up with it. But invariably, I do find that people, it doesn't take a lot. It will, even if it's just offering someone food. I usually carry a bag of sweets. I always have some kind of snacks with me because, and I learned that as a technique to get people to chat. I would bring out something and just offer it round the compartment or even the table where I was sitting. In Turkey, I remember this family had a whole load of baklava that they were handing around to everyone. And even that's just, it's just a way to kind of just initiate communication with people. And often, once they're sort of mouthful and chewing on something, you can then just ask them about something else. And like you were saying, the kind of very seemingly innocuous questions will often get people to get chatting about things. But I think I find it quite obvious when someone doesn't want to talk
Yeah.
because they will just have, like you said, put headphones on straight away is one of the first signs that they are not up for chat.
Or grumble. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, or they'll go straight up to their berth. That's the other thing that a lot of people do is if it's a 4-person couchette or 6-person, they'll just tidy their stuff away when you get on board, and they'll go straight up. And I fully respect that. You are absolutely entitled to your own private space. Not everyone is there for chats and communication, and that's fine. But I do feel for the most part that train travelers are okay with
Yeah.
being talked to because it's the nature of the layout and the way seating is done, and I think particularly with sleeper trains, with your regular day trains where you've got your seats in twos just running down the side, it is trickier. It's definitely harder to start speaking to people. But I think with the compartments, when you're all facing each other or you're in a dining car or something, it is a lot easier. I also think when people have gone to a dining car, you can't then be cross if people want to talk to you because it's quite a communal space. And when I've wanted to chat to people, if I've been traveling by myself and I know that I want to get some stories out of people, I'll always head to the dining car because that's where everyone's very happy to keep talking. And actually, the train managers, I had a couple who I spoke to in the book. They're always up for chat. You'd be amazed how many stories they've got, and they're so fun. I think most of them probably have an entire book in them for the journeys that they've done.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. And especially at the night trains where often they won't have too much work to do by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Once things
Yeah,
are kind of
exactly.
settled in, then they've just got to be there. So yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I noticed actually a few times, and maybe it's a almost subconscious technique that you found people who like they had a slogan on their t-shirt that kind of indicated, oh, we probably have some similar values or something like that, and that's another, and it's also just a kind of a reason to start a conversation sometimes. And
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the dad who I met on again, the same train when Denny was off chatting to the other couple, I was talking to the dad called Herman, who was traveling with his son. Again, people with kids, they are often very easy people to break the ice with. So when I'd actually just gone for a wander, I just wanted to have a look at the other compartments. And as I came into the corridor, he was blocking the corridor because he was carrying Assad so he could look out the window. And I could see that his t-shirt said, make racism wrong again. And I thought, you're an interesting man. You're not someone, as I just look at, would assume would wear a t-shirt like that because clearly you're saying something to people. In fact, you're already communicating with people. You are talking to them already. You're already opening conversation here with the t-shirt. So I felt like this was somebody that I could just stop and say, look, I'm curious about your t-shirt. Why are you wearing it? And why on the train as well? But even I just talked to him about his son initially. And I said, oh, has he been on this train before? Or, what's he looking for? And then he said, oh, he's too little. He can't actually reach. He wants to see what's going on. We do trains quite a lot. And then that was it. It usually just takes a couple of comments and then you can sort of break into the chat with them.
Yeah, there you go. We've got a few extra ideas, Justin.
Oh.
And sometimes we will be rejected, but that's okay. It's not personal. Oh, dear. Monisha, Justin and I both picked out this common thread throughout the book. There's a few, especially in Europe. You mentioned a few different schemes whereby people are trying to get more sleeper trains like back up and running, or and I've got a few tagged in my book, and I haven't gone through to get all the names of them, but there was like even like some volunteer groups and stuff who were people who were trying to get night trains back. And can you tell us just a bit more about that whole kind of movement that you discovered?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, it's very depressing. But there's a group called Oui au Train de Nuit, which is the French group. Yes to the night train, basically it translates. They have been campaigning and been in the news a lot recently because it actually breaks my heart that the first chapter, the Paris to Vienna train, is being scrapped from December onwards. And I was devastated when I saw that they decided to do this, because it's not Nightjet, it's not Austria's side of things. It's actually French Railways, SNCF, have just decided that they're not going to fund it anymore. And we, au Train de Nuit, are devastated, and they all turned up to the station in their pajamas at night time with huge signs and massive protest. And they've been out in the streets campaigning because there's another group called Back on Track, who I think are based in Brussels. Some similar things. They are campaigning for cheaper tickets, more routes, and they feel really vehemently about this, that they should be given an alternative option for flying, because the climate crisis is undeniable. Not everybody wants to fly. People are scared of flying. They also just are fed up of polluting, of the time that it takes to drive to an airport, getting taxis, having to arrive 2 hours in advance, security faffing on the other side. And then when you arrive at a lot of cities, you're on the outskirts of a city, and then you've got to get another taxi or another train into the heart of the city. And it's the ease of just taking the train from one center to the other. And I think they have very valid reasons as to why they are campaigning so hard about this. And they have definitely gathered a lot of momentum in the last couple of years. They're expanding a lot more. They've got so many more people on board. They are regularly on platforms with their signs. I think European Sleeper, the company who is the Belgian Dutch collective who launched the Goodnight train, they had all of the Back on Track people were on board that, which is where I actually met a group of them. And they all link with each other because, I mean, they all have a common goal. I say we, I suppose, all have a common goal, which is to just get night trains back up and running. But I think the biggest issue and the thing that's holding them back is rolling stock, for a start, is it's just a problem because there aren't enough carriages that are built for sleeper trains and berths in them already. They would have to put in a mass order for a company to provide them all, basically. And that's why the ones that are running are really old, because they can't justify producing all these train carriages and then not being certain about the future of night trains if they then disappear again. So the French one is a really kind of, it's a real blow, because it's not just the Paris to Vienna route that's been cut, it's Paris to Berlin as well. And that's a really key route. So now there will no longer be any night trains out of France, which is really, really sad, because, and especially for us, it's horrible, because for us, the entry point into Europe is straight to Paris on the Eurostar. And then from there, it's tricky. So now at least Brussels still has sleeper trains, and so does the Netherlands, leaving from there. So at least we can still get the Eurostar there and then come via Brussels. But it is a real shame. And I don't know, I actually don't know what the answer is. I don't know what the future will be for sleeper trains. When I was in the Netherlands recently, I spoke to the CEO of Interrail, and he said the issue is that they are not profitable. And that's why they just can't justify bringing out a whole load of carriages and setting up the routes again. They said, what they are running is full. And that's what I find quite interesting, that they are booked up in advance. They're almost running at capacity most of the time. And that's why we, au Train de Nuit, was so angry, because they said that over the last year or so, almost all the trains have been running at 80% capacity, which is a lot. And they said,
Yeah.
this many people are on them all the time. So
Yeah.
what do you expect them to do now that you've cut this train? And I actually thought back to some of the people I not just met, but heard about from the train manager on that night jet, where she said there's a dad who regularly travels from Romania to see his son because he and his partner are separated and he visits. Or the woman who has to take her cello because she plays in the orchestra and can't fly with it. And I thought, what are they all supposed to do from December onwards when this is just their normal commute to have to find an alternative, which is it's really sad. It's not just a shame, it's actually really sad and really disappointing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's very backwards, isn't it? It
Mm.
seems like, the only way to save them is like massive systemic change. Like I thought, like
Yeah.
France has those laws about short flights were banned, weren't
Yeah,
they? Like 2-hour
exactly.
flights or something. But like if something bigger than that could get implemented, or because I guess the flights are still super cheap, so people will take
Yeah.
those rather. But if yeah, it's hard to fix. But if we ran the world, we would fix it,
Yes,
wouldn't
exactly.
we?
I would. I would make night trains mandatory.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Oh, that's very sad. Justin, I'm just going to jump in so I don't forget because Philippa's put a question in the chat, which I'm really curious about. Philippa's the one in sunny
Mm.
Scotland today, surprisingly. And she says, I love your books and have traveled on a number of the same or similar journeys to you. For her 60th, she flew to Istanbul and came back to Edinburgh by train, a mirror
Oh,
to
wow.
the Trans-Mongolian adventure of 20 years earlier. So that would have been
Crazy.
an epic trip. But her
Yeah.
question is this. Her question is the level of detail that you capture in your books is phenomenal, and how do you manage it? Do you take extensive notes, like without being too obvious? Or do you have an excellent memory for detail, or post-journey fact-checking, or what?
Do you know what? It's actually a combination of all of those things. I have got a near photographic memory. I've realized I've clocked now. I do remember things very, very vividly. Even from when I was a kid, I can still picture things quite precisely. So it's very, very helpful to have that when you're a travel writer. But I do take quite extensive notes. I would say so if I'm on a sleeper train, I will go out, do my chats, sit in the dining car, and it's right before I go to sleep when I'm in my berth and I'm just sort of winding down when there's nothing left to see outside and it's pitch black because I stay awake right up until there is nothing left and it's just tunnels or it's just absolute pitch black darkness, no moon, everyone's asleep. That's when I turn in. So for work, I tend not to sleep very long on the train because I'll stay awake till at least 12 or 1 and then I'm usually up by about 5 because I don't want to miss the sunrise. And I want to see that transitional period before it's sunrise and everyone's up and awake. So I sit in bed and I make my notes then. And I usually do at least 2 or 3 pages just to completely get in what is fresh, really, really fresh. And it will be anything from a conversation I might just have had with somebody to what I'm feeling. And a lot of the time, my notes tend to be about how I'm feeling about the journey rather than specific details. So I usually leave it about 6 months between the travels and then writing up the chapters. Um, but what I forget when I come to sit down and do the book is how I felt at the time. So it could be that I was exhausted when I got on. I could be apprehensive about some of the people I was in a compartment with. I could have been kind of nervous about getting in really early in the morning and what I was going to do. And I'll put all of that down because that's the stuff that I will then think, oh, I'd forgotten I felt like that. And it's quite relevant to when I then put the chapters together to get the tone of it and get people to understand what it's like being in that train. But I have also got a very tiny notebook which I keep for precise details. But also the notes on my phone. It's a really because we've all got phones out all the time now. It's a very easy way to make notes about people. So if I'm sitting at a table and chatting to someone, I'll sometimes just say, "Oh, do you mind if I just need to send this email?" And I will sit and write reams about them, pen and there, just because I'll see something about them or something will happen outside the window and I'll know immediately that I want that in the book. It sticks out so brightly that I think that has to go in there. And if I don't write it down now, I will forget this. It could be, some very flippant comment that somebody will make about something we've just seen. And you think, oh gosh, I will forget that in a few hours. So I'll put it down. So I have a combination of things. I take a lot of video as well. Precisely the moment when we leave the station, I like to video that bit where you're drawing away from the platform, and for at least a couple of minutes until you're sort of breaking out into the city. Mainly because I think a lot of travel writers tend to write from expectation as well. A lot of people don't necessarily write absolutely fresh content from what they're seeing, because I think all of us have traveled, not necessarily traveled a lot, but we've read a lot of things about certain cities. We've seen films where these cities are set, that it's impossible to come somewhere and not have an idea of what you're going to see. So you turn up in Paris, you think of it as a romantic city. You think of it as a beautiful place. The architecture's lovely. It's been in films, it's been in books. It's very hard to view that city from a completely blank space in your head. So part of you is already looking for certain things, whether or not you realize it. And I think it can be easy to fall into a trap of writing in cliche because of what you've been told to think or believe about a place. So I'm quite studious about that first couple of minutes, because you expect certain things. You expect the graffiti, you see those, low hanging wires, you see the backs of people's houses. But with different cities, they can really vary. So you'll sort of start making notes. And then on the outskirts of Oslo, you're expecting, dereliction and broken down things. And actually, you've got Teslas and you've got really expensive looking houses all the way through the suburbs. Whereas in Bucharest, it's not like that. It's completely different. And even the style of graffiti is different. The nature of the politics of what people are writing is different. The state of the local trains are different. The houses are different. It's all very key to giving you an idea of what that place is. So I basically try and put in as much as I can. I don't always use it all. That's the other thing. I would probably say I use from my diary, which is, quite full. I probably only use about 40% of what I've actually written about the place, because my narrative, I suppose, forms when I'm actually sitting down to write the chapter. I don't think about it when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
It's a lot of my feelings and the narrative of the chapters takes form on screen. And I decide then and there what is the story that I want to give my readers. I don't think about it when I'm actually traveling, because it hasn't really taken shape at that point. It's only having digested it all, thought through how I felt about a place, weighed up all the experiences I've had, that I think that's my takeaway from it. And this is what I want the readers to draw from the book. I could have had a really fraught experience on a train, some quite aggressive conversations, but I don't necessarily want that to be what my readers are taking from it, because that might just be one experience that I've had that isn't representative of something. So I wouldn't want that to be the bulk of what they're presented. And I think that would be a kind of diary and a memoir, I suppose, rather than a travelogue, which I want to be quite a sort of holistic journey for people. I don't want it to just be, she had a terrible time in this place, so that's what this place is at all, which it can be with a lot of people's experiences. So I tried to be quite kind of measured about things with the detail that I give as well.
No, and I feel like each of your train journeys have their own distinct kind of flavor, and like I've been trying to read it very religiously, several chapters a day, so that I hate reading book club books too far in advance, because then I can't remember anything. So I always do it like in a kind of a cram over a week or so. But I would sit at the table and read a chapter, and I would really feel in that not even in that location, in that stretch, I suppose, between the two destinations. And I think you do a great job. I'm glad Philippa asked that question. That was very interesting. I am curious, do you do any fact checking? Like, do you, like some of the people that you've had detailed conversations with in your report, do you ever, email, do you keep in contact with them? Do you talk to them about what you've written about them, or?
Yeah, I do actually. A lot more than I did with my first. So my first book, I think part of that comes with social media and how that's changed.
Yeah.
Because back then in 2010, when I did my travels in India, it was, I had a Nokia that had nothing on it. It was just I would text my parents and say, this is where I am. But I wasn't able to keep in touch with anybody unless I actually sat down and wrote down an email address and then wrote to them. Now, people are adding each other on Instagram while they're in the compartment with each other. And it's much easier to be able to not just place other people, but for them to find me. So if I were to write about someone and then down the line they read something, it would take them 30 seconds to Google me and find me on Instagram and write to me and say, hi, I'm the person in your book. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and I don't like this. And I'm really mindful of that now, in a way that I probably wasn't 15 years ago, because it just wasn't the same dynamic. So but also I think I approach my books as a journalist a lot more, because that's how I was trained. I trained in feature writing, news, fact checking, reportage, and being precise is very key for my writing. I write from a very, very factual, not like non-fiction means non-fiction to me. And I know a lot of travel writers in the past have embellished their work. They create a story that they want their readers to enjoy rather than actually thinking about what's in the book. And it's quite well known now, the people who have done that. But I can't. It just doesn't work for me. I also don't feel the need to either, because I come across such genuinely interesting people with fascinating stories that I don't think that they need to be kind of hammed up in any way.
No, they don't need embellishment. They are amazing as they are.
And people are kind of characters in their own right. Everybody is. It just depends how you portray them. But I have, with almost all of the conversations I had, I did send the chapters. Well, I sent not the chapter, but the chunk that they featured in. I did send it to them to make sure that they were okay with that, where they were named. And for the people who weren't named, so I actually have to go through a legal read. The publishers do a legal read on the book, and they asked me to send a document saying which people had given me approval, which people hadn't, whose names were changed, whose weren't. And I changed a couple of names, I think, just to sort of preserve identity, I suppose, just because they hadn't explicitly said to me, yes, you can use what I'm telling you, right? And I don't feel like I have to get that written confirmation from them, but I just feel better. I think as a journalist,
it feels more ethical, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does. And I think for me, the reason is because people have trusted me with their stories.
Yeah.
People do tell me very personal, very intimate detail, and they've been generous enough to do that. They don't have to, and their stories are the bulk of my books. And I feel like I owe them that. I owe them the decency to be honorable about how I write about them. Obviously, it's my own personal experience, and if someone's been an absolute rotter to me, it's my right to say this person was awful. But at the same time, when they've just been very generous, for example, the student in Myanmar, I did change his name because for his own safety.
Yeah.
He said, because I asked him at the time, are you okay with me saying this? And he said, this is what you can call me. And that would be fine. So I would 100% respect that for that obvious reason. Yeah. But with other people, I wrote their names in because I figured that there was nothing. I mean, it is a process where you read it back over and think, is this something that's likely to get them in trouble at work? Are they professionally going to be affected by this? Are they even identifiable? And sometimes it's just easy enough to change a name slightly. It doesn't take anything away from the narrative. I just want to know that my work isn't going to inadvertently just cause any kind of distress for somebody. I just don't think it's necessary, really.
Yeah. Well, just for the record, if you ever bump into me on a train, I'm happy for you. I'm happy to be in your book. I think a lot of people would get a real thrill out of it.
You get a bit of a thrill.
Well, it depends what I tell you.
Copies of your book too, and hand them out to in the book. I'm in the book.
I'm famous. Justin, do you have one last question?
Well, I was just going to relate to the last one about, because I noticed how there was the blue-haired lady at the end of the book as well.
Yes.
So, and I think probably a prime example of where I don't know if you even knew her name, but hey, it was just enough there that
So that was one. So I changed the color of her hair, which was quite bright shade. So the hair color was changed, and I mean, to be honest, if she read it, she'd probably know in 2 seconds that it was her. But he was a genuinely obnoxious character, and it was universally acknowledged amongst all the passengers that she was.
On the train, yeah.
Yeah, it sounded, yeah.
And also, if you're traveling on a public train around other people, and it's that is who you were. It's what you did. It's what you said. And if you don't want that to be out there, then don't behave like that. But
Yeah.
I didn't know her name. You're right. I didn't. I had no idea.
I think, as you say, like people,
So just
the
a
people who
coloured
ride,
haired lady, not blue.
yeah. So people who ride trains are a bit different to, say, people who are at airports, because they've had to go through frustrations and everything like that. So generally, you're not expecting to find the kind of people that would be disruptive and obnoxious on a train, although they
Yes,
they
yes.
can
It's
be
a bit more
there.
unusual, I agree.
Whereas if it was a
Yeah.
book about plane flights, the whole book would be just about obnoxious people and what they've done.
Accurate. Yeah. No,
Um,
it's completely true. And I think that's why when people are tricky, it is exceptional,
Yeah.
and it does leap out at you when someone is a kind of difficult character, because it is so unusual on trains. And I think Herman, who was wearing the racism T-shirt, he said to me, "I always travel in a couchette compartment," because he said you may get occasionally a tricky character, but he said the people who choose to be in a six-person mixed couchette are generally of the same disposition. You like being around people. You're happy to have conversation with people. You don't mind people talking at you. And they are mindful of each other. They adjust. They move luggage. They are quiet. They won't keep everybody up really late. They won't have loud music. They'll have their headphones on. And I do find that I've very rarely been on a train and had people being disruptive, or leaving a light on, reading till 2, 3 in the morning while everybody else is trying to sleep. There's always a sense of community, I guess. It is a sense of kind of, we are all here in the same place and we all want this journey to be pleasurable. So let's all do what we can to make it good for everybody involved. And I do not feel like you get that on planes or anywhere else. I think it's very specific.
Quite the opposite, I think, on a plane.
Yeah.
Often. Yeah. Every man for himself kind of approach
Yes,
on a plane.
exactly that.
Don't you recline your chair near me, or don't. I'm not going to get up.
Schooling for a fight when they're on flights. It's like everybody turns up just on edge.
On edge.
Anything will just trigger it, and you just think, oh god. And I never physically feel that when I board a train. And I don't feel that weird kind of energy that I know is present on a flight. It's just not there on train. I think that's why I kind of mentally as well feel quite calm when I'm traveling on a train, because I know that this is going to be a pretty seamless experience.
We had a lovely comment on Facebook, which I want to share, from Sandy in Brisbane. And she said she really enjoyed the book. And ironically, she said, I was actually reading it whilst on a local commuter train. And a young man took out his headphones and started asking me about the book, which I found really interesting and nice. Aww.
That's really nice. I love that. I always love hearing from people who read it on trains, because I think it's quite sweet. When I get pictures, people invariably photograph it when they're on a train reading it. And I'm sure that reading while on a train about trains adds an extra kind of dimension to the experience. So yeah, it's great. That makes me happiest, I think.
It's so lovely. I love that too. Makes me want to go and take it on a train now.
I was going on a train on next Friday, but it's not the right timing, Amanda. Week too late.
Really?
Just probably still take the book and pretend to read it again. So,
are you taking the Canberra to Sydney train, Justin?
Yes.
Lucky, that one's still there and pretty decent. Yes, we've been complaining about the Melbourne to Sydney trains because the sleeper train is no more, or they took out it's only City Up.
They are bringing out new carriages. The New South Wales train service, which operates out of Sydney, they're getting a whole lot of new carriages. So, but we need there's just a little dining car and seats, but Sydney to Melbourne was much longer, wasn't it, Amanda?
11 to 12 hours. Yeah.
So there was a day and an overnight service, but they haven't bought any carriages with sleeper berths in them. So of the new train, and
it's very short-sighted.
I'm not sure what Sydney, because there's literally only 3 commercial sort of sleeper train services, and Sydney to Brisbane, which has a ridiculous arrival time of like 4 a.m. in the morning.
Oh no,
That's useless, really.
Yeah,
Oh.
and that's apparently a government thing as well. And then Brisbane, I think, up to Townsville has a sleeper as
Oh,
well.
right.
So
Yeah.
they're the main ones, but
that's
and then
weird.
we've got our expensive luxury ones.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're just
Is
they're
is kind of where I feel like the sleeper trains are going to end up. Sadly, like in general,
Yeah.
only for
um,
the wealthy, which
they'll
is
be
the
expensive,
experience
like
rather than the
expensive
useful.
luxury experience, which often isn't that luxurious, but
Mm.
Do you know, you're not wrong. Actually, they're not. They're not. I mean, I think what a lot of people find is they pay all that money and they don't actually sleep.
yeah.
They
But I
good,
mean,
and they're bleary eyed in the dining car in the morning. You think you forked out thousands for this, but you haven't actually slept at all, which is
yeah,
Yeah,
great.
that is a problem, isn't it? Was it the Scottish one, where you stabled each night? So
Yeah.
that was quite
I
a clever tourism
yeah,
version.
it's a really smart thing to do to actually just stable at a private station overnight. So you get a good stretch of about 7 or 8 hours and then set off again at breakfast.
Mm.
I think a couple of them have started doing this because when I took the Orient Express with my dad in June as a surprise trip, and they actually did the same. They stabled at Avignon. So it's a route they only do once a year from Paris to Portofino.
Oh,
It's a unique one. So I
fun.
took him as a surprise trip. He didn't know we were going on a train at all, and he's the only one of my family who hasn't come along with me yet. So it was a really lovely
It
journey.
was due.
It
Oh,
was yeah.
lovely.
He was like, why am I literally the end of the list of everybody who's been with you? It's like
Saving
okay,
the best till last.
well, yeah, basically. But they stabled overnight in Avignon, which was great. So we had, I think, about midnight the train stopped, and at about 5:30 in the morning it set off again. So we had a good stretch of sleep, and because of the route, we woke on the Riviera at 6 a.m. as the sun was coming up, and then you get the whole of the coastline all the way down to Portofino by 3 p.m. So it was very well done this time.
That's beautiful.
But it is tricky. It's really hard because not everybody does sleep. And if you are a
No.
light, you can actually arrive completely shattered in the morning.
Yeah.
And this kind of idea of, you know, go to bed, sleep well, do some work, wake up refreshed, and go straight to your office meeting. You think, not always, not actually refreshed. You wake absolutely exhausted with a big headache, and then you've got to go straight to work.
That's not ideal, is it? Yeah. I
No,
sleep
not at
very
all.
well on sleeper trains. I really,
I
even
do.
on the rattly ones in Vietnam or across Russia, no
Yeah,
problem. But I did take my mum many years ago on the sleeper train from Moscow to St. Petersburg. And
yeah,
yes, we got to St. Petersburg and she said, I'm never going on a sleeper train again. So she did not sleep well. So I get it. Everybody is different. So
yeah.
yeah.
It is.
Luckily, we
It
had
is.
no more sleeper trains on our trip planned on that trip. So I wasn't disowned or anything. She had agreed to it, but yeah, I love them. But yeah, it doesn't suit
Yeah,
everyone. I get it.
I
Yeah.
agree.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Just a quick shout out to Facebook. If there's any last minute questions, jump in. Justin, do you have any last minute quick questions?
no, because I think we've covered everything, and I think like we just briefly touched on that bit about how they're going towards luxury, and I think
Yes,
Mm.
that's true. We did. Yeah.
like I know
Yeah.
in Australia there's a few. There's one up in the far north of Queensland, and it's like a rail car, but it stops
Okay.
down for the night, and all the people get off because there's no berths on the train. But get off, and they go at a hotel or something, and then but it goes there and back, so it's more of a tourist service rather than a
Yeah, that's
Transport.
joint service.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, they're just sadly disappearing. And I mean, I'm
Mm.
coming over to Europe in April, and my journey was Porto to London via train, and I've struggled.
Mhm.
And you kind of confirmed already that there just aren't any sleeper trains.
So tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, by the time I get to Belgium, it's like just catch the Eurostar to London to fly back home again.
So you're
But
going from Porto to London?
yeah, just a longish way. But funnily enough, also trains between Portugal and Spain. Also,
They're really
a nightmare.
tricky.
Yeah, got a
Huh.
few buses in there, so because I'm getting down
Wow.
to Algarve and then up to sort of
Oh, that's a real shame. Because when I did around the world, I did a sleeper train from Madrid
yeah,
to Madrid to Lisbon,
mm,
and I didn't know at the time that it was one of the last ones.
Yeah.
And they phased it out really quickly after, which was
Even normal
Wow.
trains are really, even just normal trains are really quite a challenge.
Yeah.
Like all the
that's so annoying.
yes, but I'm doing it all on train as much as I can on trains is my goal. So
Excellent. That's
other
fabulous.
than the London to Porto flight to start off with, but given
And the Canberra to London leg.
well, given I've
plane,
just flown
I'm
from
sure.
Australia,
Yeah, that's okay.
Short leg is probably
There is a sleeper from the south of, not Nice, but further down south in the Pyrenees up to Paris, which is a good one.
I'll have to have a look then, because I was planning to get to Toulouse and then to Paris and over to Belgium.
If you want to do a sleeper, you can get from to the Pyrenees. There's have a look because it's very good. I did it last year, and it's a really great sleeper, and it's quite a quiet one. It's a route that people don't really seem to know that very much about. But it's a great route. It's a really good one, and you can get from Barcelona in 3 hours to that station.
Okay.
And it's a really easy ride. So if you can get from Porto to Barcelona,
that's
good tip.
I'm guessing you used seat61.com.
Yes, that's a resource.
Fabulous site.
He's got some good detail about that train from Barcelona up to.
I'll have to have another look.
Yeah. We have one last message from Helen, and she says, "Thank you for joining us, Monisha. I'm pleased to say your book was prominently displayed in a bookshop I visited in Dunsborough, southwest Western Australia today."
That's nice.
And she's said, yes, she's had to sign off. Internet access is not good down there, but she really enjoyed all your books. So there you go. You are on display in the beachside towns in the southwest of WA.
I apologise to everybody that there are no Australian trains in the book, because there should have been
day.
New Zealand put some lovely trains too. You know?
I would love to have been there. It was, in fact, my proposal, the initial proposal for this book did feature the Ghan, and I wanted to do it, and I was very keen to do a full chapter. And then it just became so tricky because I had to wait so long after lockdown to actually travel. And then to come out would have, I think if I come that far, I want to at least spend
you've got to be,
there's a lot of things you can do. I think there's some new trains even in Southeast Asia now coming around, like a bit of a Bangkok to Vientiane.
Yes, you're right.
Yes, actually, and Thailand's got a big special on there, like some sort of celebration train journeys. They just advertised
probably more likely to get in
October, November. Yeah, it's interesting. I just have, before I forget, I've got this out because I wanted to tell you, Monisha, that you mentioned the Ghan, and that's what reminded me. And this lovely Australian author, he's coming to our festival next week, Benjamin Stevenson, and he writes these great crime books. The first one was called Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, but they're like comedy crime almost. But this book, he was very clever. He had got the idea of everyone on the train is a suspect, and therefore took the Ghan for research purposes, and then wrote this book. And it's so fun, and it's just there's a murder on the train, and it's just really fun.
That's
so
really good fun. Great. Sorry, what's his name again?
Sorry, Benjamin Stevenson.
Stevenson. Okay, I will note that down. That looks really great.
I did make a comment to Amanda. I said if we needed to solve the murder on the Orient Express, that between the two of you, because I know Amanda reasonably well, between the two of you, you would probably find the suspect quite quickly.
We would have talked to them already. We would have got...
already known.
I like to chat to people. I would have my theories. Oh, dear. Well, thank you, Monisha, so much for joining us today. It was lovely to chat.
Pleasure. It's lovely to see you again.
Yes, you too. And thank you, Justin, for being my fabulous co-host as always. My ever reliable Monisha. One day years ago, I said, "Would you just come on?" I used to do it by myself. Would you just come on and help me this one time? And like 4 or 5 years later, he's not allowed to leave because it's more fun with two. So yeah,
it is fun. Oh, thanks so much, Justin. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Been great.
Yeah, lovely to chat, Monisha. And I hope that someday you will come out here to Australia and take our amazing trains, and that will be maybe the next book.
Possibly. Yeah, who knows?
Yes. No, I understand. Got to be here for a while to make it worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Well, take care. And
you too. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been another episode of the Thoughtful Travel Podcast. Show notes and other information are at notaballerina.com/podcast. Join me again soon for another chat about why we travel. Bye for now.